gonna hide. Pop and get us swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In our heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Amadaya production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Pop and get us swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In our heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Pop and get us swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams.
Right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen AmadayaShakur show. I'm your host, Queen AmadayaShakur, and this is your morning vitamins. I'm sorry, your morning wake-up call. Okay, we'll have your daily vitamins later, perhaps. But anyway, sorry for being late. Y'all know how it is. So I came across this story that we're going to talk about real quick before we get into this nefariousness. Okay, with that all being said, hello, Buckhurst, DC. All right, 504 NOLA is in the virtual building. Yvette is here. Adonaya. Okay, I hope I said that right. We the people. Desmond, G from the land, Emperor Rex. Okay, let's get into it. Nessie X. All right, 504 NOLA, Ethelene, Nessa G, Byron. I see you, beloved. Shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen. Okay, and hit that like button, like, share, subscribe, and also double check to make sure that you're still subscribed, especially if you haven't been receiving the notifications. And if you missed last night's broadcast, please be sure to go back and watch that. Okay, now, with that all being said, let's have a brief word from our sponsor and then get into it. Because when I tell y'all, this Epstein debacle is getting more juicy and nefarious by the day. Okay, so we're about to get into it.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil also, and she usually has sales at least twice a month, okay? So with that all being said, let's get into it. Now, I'm going to this video because Grand Junction police were attacked by this man, okay, that doesn't look like me. And he beat the hell out of them. And I want you all to pay attention. They suffered injuries, and this man walked away without a scratch. Okay, they didn't shoot him 10, 15, 20 times. That's what they didn't do. Funny how they didn't fear for their lives. Now, I'm not going to show you the video, but if you want to see it, it is posted on my X account. Okay, I can't show it on here due to the violence, but mind you, as I said, this man, honey, they didn't even try to, they didn't dare shoot him. Okay, and I think we all know why. So let's go to the clip, and here's another thing you're going to find interesting. Okay, here's another thing you're going to find interesting. Though the man is shown clearly in the video beating the crap out of the police, they don't show his picture in the news report. Okay? They don't show his picture in this news report, and I find that interesting. Hold on, I'm trying to rewind this because I started looking at it before the broadcast. Okay, here
The
we
man
go.
suspected of assaulting 2 police officers at the North Avenue Walmart has now been identified. 38-year-old Bobby McCarley was arrested and taken to the Mesa County Jail after he was released from the hospital. We're working on getting his mugshot. McCarley faces several charges, including 2 counts of second-degree assault on a peace officer. Police were called to the North Avenue Walmart on Wednesday for reports of a man harassing employees and customers. According to police, a fight broke out and McCarley assaulted 2 officers. They were taken to the hospital with serious injuries, but have since been released.
Y'all heard that? Y'all heard that? Taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Okay? Now, I'm sorry, but I find that very interesting. I find that very interesting. He attacked these officers basically as soon as they approached. Okay? He's been charged with 2 counts of second-degree assault on police officers, resisting arrest, obstruction, second-degree burglary, theft, and menacing. Anywho, we see how that all goes down. That's right. That's right, Hotep Sahadi, the complexion for protection. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's get into these Epstein files. Because let me tell y'all something. I know who one of the clients is. Okay, I figured it all out. And here's the thing. Now, they haven't specifically said this was a client, but I'm pretty sure it is because, in fact, this person's a whole convicted ex-offender. Okay? They're a convicted ex-offender. And Jeffrey Epstein wrote them a letter. Yeah, they're a client. Okay, I'm saying it. Let me just throw in allegedly, but I'm pretty sure that they're a client. Okay, so let's get into it. And also, let me just tell you all something. They dumped some more files. Okay, they've dumped some more files, and Trump's name is all up and through them. And Bill Clinton has come out and said, hey, go ahead and release everything. Okay, go ahead and release all of it. We know they're not going to do that, right? And they're not supposed to be redacting people who they claim were around Epstein, like people that were just his friends or in pictures, as Trump keeps saying. Okay, so they're not supposed to protect these people, and they're not supposed to not show their pictures or their names just because they claim that they didn't do anything nefarious, that they're just friends of his. Or they were at a party or something. The only ones who are supposed to be redacted, again, remember, are the victims. Now, I showed you proof days ago that they are absolutely hiding people's names. Okay, so with that all being said, with that, hold on. Did you just come up, Byron B, with a whole slogan for Lisa? Miss Lisa, 12 tribes will make your hair rise. Yeah, go get some. I can't wait to tell her that. Okay, now, so with that all being said, let's get into it. Okay. Justice Department releases 3rd batch of Jeffrey Epstein files, including some that mention Trump. Okay, there have been growing concerns from lawmakers and survivors that the department had fallen short of releasing all of its records as required by law. Now, the Justice Department on Tuesday released the 3rd batch. Okay, they say the Justice Department, which is legally required to release the files under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, acknowledged that Trump Trump appearances in a post on social media, and they said that some include untrue. Now listen to this. This is Trump's DOJ, mind you. They say they acknowledged the Trump appearances in a post on social media and said some include untrue and sensationalized claims. Yeah, miss us with it. Do y'all hear this? Untrue and sensationalized claims. Well, here's the thing. Anybody who's in the files who was doing anything nefarious could say just that. So are we supposed to believe that? Yeah, I don't think so. But what I will believe is that people who were close to Epstein may have absolutely been involved in his trafficking. That's what I choose to believe, okay? Miss me with it. All right, so Rokana says, we hear there will be another DOJ Epstein release this afternoon. Here is what at Representative Thomas Massey survivors and I want. Number 1, the FBI witness interviews, which names other men. Number 2, the Epstein emails seized from his computer. And 3, the 60-count draft indictment. 4, the 82-page prosecution memo. And the DOJ must stop protecting rich and powerful men who were not charged or those who sabotaged the prosecution. And he's absolutely right. I agree. Okay, they need to stop playing in our faces like Tom Blanche. Okay, because let's get back into Tom Blanche for a minute. You can remember I showed you the video of Tom Blanche yesterday, and he was sitting there making all these excuses and saying, oh, no, we haven't released everything because, we're not hiding facts or whatever. We can't release the victims' names and pictures. And then he basically started talking about attorney-client privilege. He was talking about attorney-client privilege. Some of this stuff can't be released because of that. Well, here's the thing. What's interesting is the fact that, and of course, mind you, he was saying this for Trump's benefit, at Trump's behest. So with that all being said, I did some thinking. I was like, wait a minute now. First of all, why would Trump have attorney-client privilege in this Epstein debacle? Because the U.S. attorneys would be looking into Epstein, okay? And so Trump, unless he had an active case where he would have been dealing with them, why would they have been talking to Trump? Well, they wouldn't have. Okay, they wouldn't have. That's what they wouldn't have been doing. So with that all being said, it's safe for me to assume that there is no attorney-client privilege. So that's just a whole lot of BS that Todd Blanche used to play in our faces, to make bogus excuses, okay, at the end of the day. And here's the thing, even if Trump, when speaking to his personal lawyers, and gave them information or whatever, that still falls short of attorney-client privilege, because once any information has been exposed, okay, once any information has been exposed and put out there, how is it still covered under attorney-client privilege? It isn't. Okay, it isn't, because attorney-client privilege stays private. Okay, so that doesn't even make any sense. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so with that being said, we don't need to listen to anything else that Todd Blanche has to say about the Epstein debacle, because we know that he's just a liar who lies, and he's protecting Trump at all costs. That's what he's doing. Okay, they all are. Bondi, Anyway, with that being said, let's continue. So the Department of Justice has officially released nearly 30,000 more pages of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false. I want y'all to pay attention. They're lying through their teeth, in my opinion. And if they had a shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against President Trump already. That's what the department said in the X post. No, they wouldn't have, because the stuff wasn't released already. How could it have been weaponized if it had not been released? Nevertheless, out of our commitment to the law and transparency, the DOJ is releasing these documents with the legally required protection for Epstein's victims. That's what their statement said. Now, the release comes amid growing concerns from lawmakers and survivors that the department had fallen short of releasing all of its records as required by law. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer on Monday said that he would be introducing a resolution directing the Senate to initiate legal action against the DOJ for only releasing some of its records related to Epstein on Friday and Saturday. Less than 10,000 of the hundreds of thousands of documents that Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche had promised on Friday, according to an NBC News account. Now, The law Congress passed is crystal clear. Release the Epstein files in full so Americans can see the truth. This is what Schumer wrote in a post on X. Instead, the Trump Department of Justice dumped redactions and withheld evidence. That breaks the law. Okay? So anyway, like I said, we should not be surprised because we knew that was coming. Now, Congress passed a bill last month, which Trump signed into law on. Okay, I'm not going to get into all that. We already know that part. Okay, so let's just continue. I'm going to go to some news footage, and then we're going to get into who I think this client is. Then I'm going to show you my receipts, and you all be the judge, okay? You all be the judge. Now, with that all being said, let me just say this also. You know, Nicki Minaj going full on MAGA, it has the right thinking that this is a way to sway Black people towards voting for the Republicans. Okay, this is basically what they're saying. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, we'll get to that in just a minute. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Let's go to the footage.
Saying something yesterday about something.
This whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has. Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished. I believe they gave over 100,000 pages of documents, and there is tremendous backlash. It's an interesting question because a lot of people are very angry that pictures are being released of other people that really had nothing to do with Epstein, but they're in a picture with him because he was at a party, and you ruin the reputation of somebody. So a lot of people are very angry that this continues. A lot of Republicans are angry because of the fact that it's just used to deflect against a tremendous success.
No footnote there. Like, we tried to ruin Bill Clinton's reputation, but nobody bought it. You know, Sam, this reminds me, though, about them just allowing this to drag on and on and on and not just releasing it. That panda bear that you did that needlepoint on that said, "We've met the enemy and it is us." Yeah, that was very good. I gave that to my daughter when she was younger. She still has it. But anyway, yeah, very good, Sam. But anyway, Sam, why don't they just release all of this, get it behind them? Again, if Donald Trump is not in these files in a way that causes him any legal problems, and again, that's been all of our reporting, then who's he trying to protect? Because he don't care about friends. Like, who is he trying to protect by continuing to drag his feet on releasing these files?
Before I get to that, would you like a needlepoint of the Trump cargo ships as well? Because I'm taking requests on this holiday season. I
actually think Lemire wanted that for his younger son.
Writing it down. Lemire ship.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Your mom must be so proud of you.
Yes, I'm proud of myself.
So how many customers do you have on Sam's needlepoint on Etsy? How many customers do you have?
As of this morning, 2. You and Lemire. But we're building. We're building.
Okay.
We're going to Shark Tank this thing.
Yeah.
All right. To your point, the real admission.
We're building one stitch at a time. I like that. That's his motto. But go ahead.
I'm gonna steer this back. So, if you remember, for months, the defense from the Trump administration over that for not releasing these files was that, well, if there's anything nefarious or bad about Donald Trump in these files, then the Democrats would have released them already, right? That was always their line. And to me, that was such an admission. It was an admission that these files would be used by them as a political cudgel. That if there was something in them that could embarrass a Democrat, they would use it.
Right.
And of course, conversely, that they would protect Donald Trump if there was stuff in there. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. And so when you ask, well, who are they hiding? What are they doing? Why are they not just putting it all out there? The only logical explanation for that is that they're trying to protect their client. This is the Department of Justice, Donald Trump, and they're trying to hurt Democrats, which is why you got all those photos by Bill Clinton. And frankly, I don't think we can assume they are operating in any good faith. I mean, this is an administration, the Justice Department that fought the release of these files, and then when they were compelled to release the files, said, look, we're the most transparent administration in U.S. history. You fought it.
And Susie Wiles told Vanity Fair point blank, Pam Bondi lied about the files. She gave them a file filled with nothingness, and then she said there's a client list on her desk because there ain't no client list, and it ain't on her list. That's Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, talking about how the attorney general is acting in bad faith and has from the beginning with the Epstein files.
And I'll just add, I think David hit it on the nail on the head here, which is the way they are handling this is not going to ultimately benefit them in the long run, because either you put everything out all at once when you're ready and when you've redacted it, or you don't, and they haven't, and that's just going to feed conspiracies that more people are getting preferential treatment and that Trump's enemies are not. And it's going to fuel a lot of chatter and conspiracy about what they're trying to do. It's going to start a lot of conversation about what's actually in the files. And then when you say at some point in time down the road, I assume they're going to say, all right, we've released them all that we can release, no one's going to believe you.
Nobody will.
And so they've handled this very, very poorly.
And all the redactions. And legally, and all the redactions also. Again, the thing is, if this were a left-wing scandal, if this is what lefties had been writing about on Twitter for the past 15 years, there'd be one thing. This is a MAGA scandal. They literally have made this pursuit of Epstein and all the gangs of pedophiles, the powerful pedophiles on the left and right and in Hollywood and everywhere. They've made that like a core belief in the MAGA base system. So when the White House covers up, it's just what I was saying before. Why? If Donald Trump hasn't done anything, and that's all of our reporting, he hasn't done anything that is illegal, release it, get the story behind you. But they will not.
This isn't really holiday shopping. Who else has new gifts always arriving at prices that make you go, there's so much. This isn't holiday shopping. This is beyond shopping. This is finding.
They will not, and there is a reason they aren't. I don't know that reason. You don't know that reason. Nobody in Washington knows that reason. But Donald Trump knows that reason, and his followers are going to keep pushing him until they figure it out.
Yeah, I reported a few months back when this story flared to life again that no one, even in the White House, knows really what's in these files, why President Trump is so upset by them. As you've said, there's nothing in there that we know of that indicates criminality. Obviously deeply embarrassing, and maybe that's all it is, but that's fueling this. And because it's a MAGA conspiracy theory, that's why this is what Trump got rolled. He told Republicans to knock it off, and they didn't. And he got over the summer when MAGA influencers defied him, and then a few months back when the House and Senate said we have to push forward on this. Now they voted for it. You know, they are clearly though unhappy with what's come out. So now do they buck Trump again and say, look, this isn't enough. Go back to it. And Willie, the sort of the incoherence of this whole plan is, let's remember, we thought that the administration was going to, they opened up this new investigation, so it would slow things down. So they couldn't release things. That was the theory, right? Well, we can't release stuff because we're opening an investigation. Trump's order to Pam Bondi was to investigate Democrats. Bill Clinton is in there by name, and yet they release all the Bill Clinton stuff.
Right.
It's so incoherent. They're Keystone Cops.
And you can see, Joe, how uncomfortable the president is, even in that clip we just played. Oh, I thought we'd stop talking about this. You keep asking me about this.
We're not,
let's put this behind us. And as you point out rightly, it's not left-wing organizations calling for this. It is MAGA. It is conservatives, along with some progressives, but largely this has been a MAGA-driven story. And rightly so. I mean, it's appalling, the stuff we've seen come out from Jeffrey Epstein. But they are saying, no, don't insult us.
Right.
don't hold us in such contempt and think we're stupid enough. We're just going to accept some redacted partial documents and move right along.
Right.
We want to know what happened here.
Yeah, and the cover-up continues, and the question is why, again, if Donald Trump hasn't done anything, which is all the reporting. But, you know, the problem with doing this to the MAGA base, treating them like they're idiots, is you really start to lose their support along with the independent support. There was a poll yesterday in Drudge, I think American Research had him at 35%. Gallup came out later. He's got a 36 approval rating. You don't get a 36% approval rating without losing a hell of a lot of your own people. And that's what's happening here.
That's right. Some of his own people and hemorrhaging independence now, as every poll shows. Still have
All right, so you all heard that. At the end of the day, they're doing everything they can to cover this all up. Okay, that's what they're doing. Telling as much lies as possible. Now let's go to this next report. And here's the thing, they keep listen, if you notice, they put Michael Jackson's picture out there. Okay, they put Michael Jackson, Diana Ross. Now, why did they put Michael Jackson out there? Of course, because Michael Jackson is a black man, and they always try to put a black man at the forefront of any type of S crimes. That's for number one. Okay, and then for number two, because we know about the allegations that were against Michael Jackson, you know, decades ago. Never mind, he was acquitted. Okay, but so they know exactly what the play is. They know exactly what they're doing. Now let's go to this report from Sky News.
Has released. Now, the US Justice Department has released this morning the biggest drop so far of investigative files related to Jeffrey Epstein. Sky correspondent Rachel Venables joins me from the newsroom, and the largest number of files to be published to date, some 11,000 of them, Rachel. It's going to take some time to go through this, but what do we know so far?
Yeah, a huge amount of files released, it seems, overnight by the Department of Justice in America, and this is the latest tranche of files that they've been releasing since they were mandated to do so. The date actually set by Congress last Friday, but we know many of the documents, the videos, the images, the emails that have been released so far, heavily redacted. Some had been publicized already. And so this is another huge slew of information related to the former financier, the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who took his own life back in 2019 while he was awaiting a trial. You mentioned the numbers already, at least 11,000 files published. It might be more. We're going through that data now. At least 10 gig of data is in this latest drop. A lot of it, I understand, emails, which we'll go through, of course, in depth. Court documents, as well as written notes from Epstein, seem to be included in this batch. And there's also a number of videos and audio files as well. And we have a team at Sky News right now who are combing through that data, combing through the videos, the emails, trying to work out what else is in here, trying to work out what else this tells us, both about Jeffrey Epstein and, of course, about his wider network, the people he knew, the people he engaged with, and the crimes that he committed. We know that this will be happening as well in newsrooms across the world, particularly in America as well, where they'll be going through this. It's too soon, far too soon to say what's new in this data. There may well be more repetition, but of course we need to stress that inclusion in these documents, whether it's in photos or emails to Jeffrey Epstein, is not an indication of wrongdoing. And many people who've been named in any of these files so far have insisted on their innocence. But of course, for context, this comes amid growing political pressure in America, something that's been putting Trump and his administration under a huge amount of strain, coming both from the Democratic side, but also this increasing splintering within the MAGA, the Make America Great Again movement. Much of Trump's base actually turning on him and his team and demanding full and total transparency, full accountability over these files. And that's what led to the passing of this law in Congress mandating the so-called Epstein files en masse be released in their entirety by last Friday, the 19th of December. As I've mentioned already, that didn't happen. The DOJ saying instead it was going to have to release these files on a rolling basis. This is obviously what we've seen. And today, possibly the biggest dump so far is part of that. The DOJ really blaming the delay on just how time consuming it is to go through every single photo, every single email you can imagine, and obscure things, particularly like victims' names, their photos, huge redaction process there. And so far, really significantly, the department haven't given any information on when these files will be released, which is why things can come out overnight or into this morning, as they have done now. And there's a scramble to respond and for people to go through it and to understand what is contained within it. There has been a huge amount, though, of criticism about the way the DOJ have handled this over the past week or more, with many in Congress saying that what's been released so far, survivors as well, also highly critical, saying too much of it has been redacted, not enough transparency. We'll have to wait and see if what's contained within these 11,000 or so documents tells us any more, goes further in what they want. But it's a huge amount of information to process, and we'll see in the coming hours, I think, more coming out of that as people pick through it and work out what it contains.
Here's something most drivers.
Okay, now with that all being said, we're going to go to this next report. This is from CBS, and after this is when I'm going to tell you who I think this client is. And I'll show you something very interesting because I downloaded some of these files, okay? I downloaded some of these files, and it was thousands of them. Of course, I didn't download all of them, but I downloaded a few, okay? And that's why I feel like I know who one of these clients is. Okay, so anyway, let's go to this next report from CBS. Don't forget to hit that like button.
Breaking news out of Washington, the Justice Department just dropped a trove of new documents and hundreds of videos from the Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, this comes as Epstein survivors and lawmakers are accusing the Trump administration of breaking the law by failing to meet last Friday's deadline that Congress set for releasing all of the documents. And former President Clinton, who appears in some of the photos, is calling on the department to release everything to avoid insinuating wrongdoing against those who have been repeatedly cleared. CBS Justice correspondent Scott McFarlane reports.
The weekend release of more Jeffrey Epstein case files hasn't extinguished the political fire engulfing the Trump administration. It's inflamed it.
I believe they're trying to protect rich and powerful people who are involved or involved in the cover-up.
Democratic California Congressman Ro Khanna says the Department of Justice, which released several photos of former President Bill Clinton, is flouting the law by releasing only a fraction of the Epstein files, many of them heavily redacted. Unless more are released, he tells CBS News he'll push for a vote to find U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi in contempt.
I really don't want to go after Pam Bondi. My interest is getting the documents out.
Some files, including one with a photo of Trump and women, were posted, then taken down, then posted again. Others were completely blacked out, which the Department of Justice defended as necessary to protect victims' identities.
A lot of people are very angry that pictures are being released of other people that really had nothing to do with Epstein, but they're in a picture with him because he was at a party, and you ruin the reputation of somebody.
The president reacted to the release of files.
I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing.
Among the documents causing alarm,
Trump is a liar who lies. Okay, the only person whose picture he's concerned about being shown is his, and he doesn't give a darn about Bill Clinton's pictures being shown because, in fact, he's the one who put Bill Clinton's name out there and told Pam Bondi to investigate Bill Clinton and other prominent Democrats. Do you all see how this man just lies on a whim, pathologically? Okay, he knows darn well he doesn't care anything about Bill Clinton. He's the one that has people even talking about Bill Clinton, trying to deflect from himself. Please pay attention, but let's continue.
1996 report confirming Epstein survivor Maria Farmer asked the FBI to investigate him for possession of child pornography.
I think seeing this evidence just begs the question of why was nothing done? This is not a small crime that she was reporting, child pornography.
The Department of Justice did not respond to requests for comment. CBS News has learned a group of Epstein survivors are planning to come back here to Washington in January to the Capitol to try to press Congress to intervene if the full files aren't released in short order. Scott McFarlane, CBS News, Washington.
And as for those newly released Epstein files, we have a team of journalists going through them, and we'll bring you the latest on what they contain coming up on CBS Mornings starting at 7.
See, I told you it works.
Yeah, but does it work for someone who's in $20,000 debt?
Okay, so now with that all being said, this is all, like I told you, getting very interesting. Now let's talk about this Epstein temple and his sadistic practices. Okay, inside Jeffrey Epstein's sadistic temple on PDF file island with a dirty mattress and coded symbols. Now, this is all interesting. But before we get into that, let me just show you something again that you heard here first. I told you all this years ago, and I'm going to show it to you again because now finally they're talking about Epstein's temple. Now, those of you who've been following me since 2020, you know that I had talked about Epstein's temple before, and I showed it to you. And I also told you that Naomi Campbell, who was good friends with Epstein, okay, her home has the same thing at the top as Epstein's. Y'all see that? I'm sure that's something subliminal. Her house is shaped like the all-seeing eye of Horus, but this part right here looks exactly like this part right here. Okay, so don't y'all find that interesting? Because I surely do. But now let's talk about what was going on inside this nefarious temple. They say new photos have emerged of the mysterious temple on Jeffrey Epstein's PDF file island, revealing coded symbols and used mattresses. Now, the Justice Department's latest trove of files includes photos taken inside the bizarre structure, which was first uncovered by drone footage of Little St. James in 2019. Now, the cube-shaped building with blue and white stripes covering it has been the subject of speculation and conspiracy theories. Photos inside the building show it in tough shape, including excess pieces of wood lying around and exposed cement panels. Another photo shows a pair of mattresses that appear to have been left to rot inside a shrink wrap that has turned a shade of yellow. Sounds disgusting. Okay. Now, the ceiling is hand-painted, showing various animals and even constellations behind a cloudy sky, as well as zodiac symbols. Okay, this is all clearly some sort of subliminal stuff that they had going on in their coded messaging, I would believe. So goes on to say, a giant empty wooden bookshelf appears to remain in good condition, though other pieces inside the room look to be incomplete. Conspiracy theorists have latched onto the odd building that was constructed sometime between 2009 and 2013 at the southwest edge of Little St. James Island, just off the coast of the U.S. territory of St. Thomas. Now, everything previously known publicly about the building had been gleaned from aerial photographs, as the entire island is kept under tight security. It's unclear when the photos were taken, but a gold dome was believed to have been ripped off by a hurricane sometime before 2017. The billionaire began transforming the 78-acre island soon after he bought it in 1998, clearing the native vegetation, ringing the property with towering palm trees, and planting 2 massive U.S. flags on either end. Now, the photos of the temple were tame in comparison to other shots that appeared to show Epstein kissing and cuddling little girls on his jet. Nasty freak. Now, the stomach-churning photographs, which were framed and put on display at his mansion on Little St. James Island, show the PDF file embracing youngsters who appear to be minors. Okay, this is all, I'm sure this is not a shock to anyone, but let me say this too. This is something I forgot to point out to you all when I was talking about Michael Jackson. In one of those photos of Michael Jackson released in the files, there's children pictured and their faces are blurred out. Well, those are Michael Jackson's children, okay? And they were trying to make it look like something else. I just happened to catch that, okay? Those were Michael Jackson's children at the end of the day, okay? So let's not let them paint narratives about innocent people, okay? Now, with that all being said, one image showed the financier holding what appears to be a girl in his lap during a flight on his Lolita Express. In another photo, he is seen seated next to another passenger, seemingly a youngster, with a book and a magazine sprawled out in front of him. Now, other horrifying photos made public during Friday's records release showed Epstein cuddling what appeared to be a child and kissing a red-headed girl on the head. So with that all being said, and I'm going to show you all some footage in a minute and some pictures. Now, it is unclear if the females seen in the undated photographs were victims of Epstein's trafficking ring. He has been accused of abusing girls as young as 11 years old. Megyn Kelly, with your dumb self, talking about, oh, he was dealing with ones like 14 and 15, not like 8, 9, 10. Girl, do we really think that PDF files have morals, that they're going to just up the ante? Okay, they'll go as low as they can stoop. All right, now the images were among the more than 300,000 files released by the DOJ on Friday. The records were heavily redacted and no major revelations emerged. In at least 16 photographs, including one of Donald Trump flanked with women in bikinis, were mysteriously removed from the online records Saturday, prompting accusations of an alleged cover-up by the Trump administration. They have since been reinstated. Now, the thousands of records posted publicly offer the most detailed look yet at nearly 2 decades worth of government scrutiny of Epstein's sexual abuse of young women and underage girls. Okay, the tranche of materials released Friday included photographs of former President Bill Clinton and other famous names such as pop stars Sir Mick Jagger. Okay, Sir Mick Jagger. So he must have been knighted at some point. I didn't know that. Interesting. And Michael Jackson. Now, but some of the most consequential records expected about Epstein were nowhere to be found, such as FBI interviews with survivors and internal Justice Department memos examining charging decisions. Those records could help explain how investigators viewed the case and why Epstein was allowed in 2008 to plead guilty to a relatively minor state-level prostitution charge. Now, Democrats also accused Republicans of a cover-up after the files had been available Friday, after the files that had been available Friday were no longer accessible on the DOJ's website Saturday. So the missing files included images of paintings depicting nude women, and one showed a series of photographs along a credenza and in drawers. Now, in that image, inside a drawer, among other photos, was a photo of Trump alongside the PDF file, Melania Trump and Epstein's longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, the DOJ, and that's another thing, we should be questioning what Melania knew about Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? Her hands aren't clean in this, I'm pretty sure. All right, nobody, and it's funny to me because nobody, do you all notice? Who the hell up? It just dawned on me that all of these people going in on Trump about these Epstein files and clowning Trump or whatever, do you all notice how they never say one word about Melania Trump, but they used to have so much to say about Michelle Obama? Do y'all notice that? They used to have so much to say about Michelle Obama, and for no good reason. Clearly, all of the nasty, negative insults, the hatred, they don't say anything about Melania, who, in my opinion, is just as dirty as Trump. If you're married to this man for years, you know exactly what the hell he was doing. Miss me with it. Okay, and that's just the fact. Now, with that all being said, she gets no respect from me is all I'm saying, and neither does Trump. We already know that. Now, the DOJ said that the image of the Trump, that's what they said, was flagged by the Southern District of New York for potential further action to protect victims. Friday's drop of files, replete with redactions, has not dulled the clamor of information, given how many records had yet to be released and because some of the materials had already been made public. Now, California's Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, a Kentucky Republican, have indicated that they could draft articles of impeachment against Attorney General Pam Bondi for what they see as the gross failure of the department to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act, saying it's not about the timeline, it's about the selective concealment. This is what Khanna said on CBS Face the Nation, adding that the redactions in the released files are excessive, and they are. And I told you all that's what we would get. I told you a bunch of redactions. Okay. Now, he said he believes there will be bipartisan support in holding her accountable, and a committee of Congress should determine whether these redactions are justified or not. Why are they impeaching Pam Bondi and not Trump? Okay. Why aren't they just going straight for Trump? But Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche on Sunday defended the redactions. Yeah, he defended them with lies and BS. He argued the DOJ's decision to release just a fraction of the Epstein files by the congressionally mandated deadline was necessary to protect the PDF files' victims. He pledged that the Trump administration eventually would meet its obligation required by law, but stressed that the department was obligated to act with caution as it goes about making public documents that can include sensitive information. Now, Blanche called that pushback disingenuous as the Trump administration continues to struggle with calls for greater transparency, including from members of his political base, about the government's investigations into Epstein. Now, federal prosecutors in New York brought trafficking charges against Epstein in 2019, but then he deleted himself in jail after his arrest. Yeah, right. We know what really happened. Maxwell, Epstein's one-time girlfriend, is serving a 20-year federal prison sentence from her 2021 conviction for the trafficking crimes. The Deputy Attorney General also defended the decision by the Federal Bureau of Prisons to transfer Maxwell to a less restrictive minimum security federal prison earlier this year, soon after he interviewed her about Epstein, mind you. Blanche said that the transfer was made because of concerns about her safety. She was suffering numerous threats against her life. Who cares? She's a whole PDF file. Why the hell do we care about her being threatened? I'm sorry, what? So the BOP, which is Bureau of Prisons, is not only responsible for putting people in jail and making sure they stay in jail, but also for their safety. Any excuse will do. You all hear this? And how the hell do we know that she was actually receiving threats? How do we know that? Where's the proof? And then you mean to tell me that she just started receiving threats conveniently after he went and had a whole interview with her, and then she, said she had never seen Trump doing anything wrong? Okay, I'm sorry. Please make it all make sense. This is all just a load of BS, in my opinion. Now, with that all being said, let me show you all. Oh, my Lord. Hold on. Why did I click off of that? Hold on, beloveds. Now, let me show you all some of the pictures from this nefarious temple. Just don't tell them what kind of satanic BS was going on in there. I'm going to share the screen. Likes up, everyone. Please like and share. Okay, there's another picture of the temple. It doesn't look very big. This is something, painting from inside of it. Okay, the ceiling is hand painted, showing various animals and even constellations behind a cloudy sky, as well as zodiac symbols. There it is. Okay, there's the nasty mattresses they were talking about. Let's go to this video. Okay, now this is supposedly in the corner of the island, they say. This is from inside. You can see the painting on the ceiling. It looks dark and gloomy. There is no telling what in the world they had going on in there. Okay? Let me see what this video is.
Today, the Justice Department has filed suit against the state of Texas for violating Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. As the Supreme Court has observed, a core principle of our democracy
Okay, so now with that all being said, let's continue. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, so this is a video I'm going to go to. We're going to get into who that person is I was talking about in just a second. But let's go to this video of Kash Patel being grilled by Massey.
Consent request. Gentleman's recognized. So I've got 4 documents I'd like to introduce into the record. The first one is Jeffrey Epstein's 6 story played out for years in plain sight. And Acosta is quoted in here saying, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone." The second document is entitled, "What?"
Did you all hear what he just said? He said that he was told that Jeffrey Epstein was intelligence and leave it alone. Now, I want you all to think about that, because haven't we heard this before? Haven't we heard this before? Once in the chat, please, if you have heard before that Jeffrey Epstein was intelligence. Didn't they say that he was a whole Mossad agent? Okay, that was never confirmed, but that has been said. So I find it interesting that he says that he was told Jeffrey Epstein was intelligence. Now that makes me wonder, is this man even really dead? Okay, because if he was really intelligence, is he really dead? Or did somebody whisk him away in the dark of night out of that jail cell to avoid a prison term? I want y'all to pay attention, honey. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention, but let's continue.
Epstein's bodyguard warned about his CIA connections. The third document is from Fox Digital. It's titled, "Epstein's Private Calendar Reveals."
Okay, now we're getting into it. His CIA connections. Okay, maybe he wasn't for the Mossad, but he could have been working for the CIA. If his bodyguard said it, y'all don't believe it's true? Why would his bodyguard say that? Now, I never heard this video before, just so you all know. I was digging this morning trying to find more information, and this is just what I came across. And actually, this video is months old. This came out like a couple of months ago. Okay? That's right, dynamic quality. The rabbit hole keeps getting deeper. Exactly. Working for the CIA, this is all interesting. And let's not us forget that CIA agents have come out. I have a video right now, okay, of a CIA agent who came out and said that they were absolutely involved in trafficking. Y'all never saw that video with the CIA agent came out and said that? I don't know if I can show it on YouTube because of the things that he specifically said, but I'm going to post it to Rumble. But this has already been something that has been said by a CIA agent, a former CIA agent. So now we got Jeffrey Epstein, okay, someone who was a whole trafficker, now alleged to have been working with the CIA. And the CIA has been known to have been engaged in alleged trafficking before. Yeah, this is getting real juicy, but let's keep listening.
Planned meetings with Obama admin official, CIA chief. And the last document is Wall Street Journal article that highlights Ehud Barak's 36 meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. He was the former prime minister of Israel and head of military intelligence for Israel. It may have held that title when he met Epstein, and then, yes.
Without objection, the gentleman will hold for a second. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one UC request. This is Judge Engelmeyer's decision from August in U.S. versus Epstein, stating the government's 100,000 pages of Epstein files dwarfs the 70-odd pages of Epstein grand jury materials.
Without objection, the gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when Senator Kennedy asked you, you've seen most of the files, who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself? You replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. You also said somewhere in the hearing and here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007, and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to the Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors such as Virginia Roberts Ufree, may she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information. And we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of two different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
Are the 302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that, yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents that where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay, I got to move on here. Were you present when the AG had the White House event when she released the binders to social media influencers?
I was, yes.
So if you're willing to meet with social media influencers who stood to benefit from the sensational and sad stories of these victims, will you meet with the victims as well?
The FBI will meet with anyone who has new information.
Will you personally meet with them?
The FBI and the professionals who are handling the cases will.
Were you instructed that it was important to release the documents to the Oversight Committee on the day of my introduction of the discharge petition to release these files?
I don't know what day that was, so no.
Well, they were released that day, and there were victims' names who weren't redacted because they were in such a rush, and the victims are not happy about that. Have you investigated any of the CIA connections? Have you seen the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein? And if you wanted to see it, would they show it to you?
Well, I can speak for the FBI, and that's presuming there's a CIA case file. And I've reviewed everything that the interagency, not I, the FBI, that was provided to us.
Would you be willing to look at the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein?
If there is such a file, and if it has not already been turned over to the FBI will look at any new investigative leads.
Have you made any progress on the pipe bomb investigation January 6th? And have you made any progress on the motive of the Las Vegas shooter?
Okay, so we can stop it right there. I think we've heard just about enough. Okay, this is all very interesting. Now, Measure Man says they found his patch and shorts in the house, then that painting. Jamie Lee Curtis got backlash from kids stuffed in a pail, and he had 2 of them. That's interesting. Thank you for your insight into the topic, beloved, and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, this is all so nefarious. Okay, Miss Mississippi says CIA ain't going to show him ish. Okay, exactly. And Cash Patel sitting there lying through his teeth. And notice when he was asked if he would investigate the information about him being in the CIA or whatever, he said if that hasn't already been released and if there's da-da-da, why couldn't he just say yes? Okay, because you know he's lying. That's why. Like he could miss me with it. Now let's get into this other article. All the new photos released in latest Epstein files, including girls in white dresses and the PDF files unaliving attempt. Okay, because they say that before he actually took himself out, he tried it before in 2019. Is what they say. Disturbing images have emerged showing the aftermath of a possible deletion attempt by Jeffrey Epstein as part of the latest release of files on the disgraced financier. The new tranche of documents released Tuesday also feature photographs of young girls posing on beds and in long white dresses. The partially redacted photographs do not appear to show any famous figures, and identities of those pictured are all obscured. Because the photos and documents from the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York where Epstein was being held denote a possible self-deletion attempt in the early hours of July the 23rd, 2019, 6 months before his death on August 10th of 2019. The report gives little more information, but includes a photograph of Epstein looking dazed and disheveled. He's laid on his back with his eyes closed in several images. Documents unearthed in September revealed that Epstein told prison staff that his cellmate, Nicholas Tartaglione, attacked him on the night of July the 23rd of 2019, the date of his possible self-deletion attempt, outlined in the latest release. Now, they go on to say the photographs are the latest documents to be published by the U.S. Department of Justice after Congress passed a law mandating their release. Several famous faces have appeared. Okay, we already know who they are. They keep saying the same names. All right, with that all being said, I'm going to show you some of these pictures. Some of the images are heavily redacted. I really don't even know why they bothered to show them because they're so heavily redacted. Like, what can you actually see? Okay. Okay, of course, this is Epstein here. This is where they say he tried to take himself out in 2019, July the 23rd of, okay. He looks like he was playing possum to me. I'm sorry. Let's go back and look again. Now, they said that he was supposedly passed out. Honey, I'm sorry. He don't even look sleep to me, okay? Eyes are closed, but it looks like he's just laying there playing possum, honey. Did he pose for these pictures? Okay, because clearly. Now, the above image shows Epstein's arms and hands, which appear to be red and swollen after what police believed was a self-deletion attempt in his cell in July 2019. They don't really look swollen to me. I guess I don't know. I don't know how his hands normally look, so I really can't say. All right. Now they say beside the photographs, documents from the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York, where Epstein was being held, denote a possible self-deletion attempt in the early hours. Okay, we already went through that. And so here's the report right here. It says type of incident, possible self-deletion, date and time, July 23rd of 2019 at 1:27 a.m. And then they have his name and where he was located in the special housing units. Okay, the lieutenant took the photographs. They have the date and all of that in time. So a photograph of Epstein's feet in his cell attached to the document about the possible self-deletion attempt. Okay, I don't know why we need to see a picture of his feet, but anywho. Okay, that's the back of his head. These are clearly some victims. Look at the size of these people. This is a darn shame. Okay, these were included in the new photographs that have been released. Okay, they show some young boys with men. Nobody can be identified. Nobody knows who the parents of these children are. Y'all don't find this interesting. Okay, an image of 2 girls with an elephant was also included. These are young kids. Like, who are the parents of them? More disturbing images featuring young girls have emerged. Okay, they're not showing any of the faces again, as we already knew. Uh-oh, hold on. Scrolling too fast. Okay, here's two sitting on a bed somewhere. Looks like a hotel, maybe. Okay. Notice the dresses and the gloves. Do you all notice the dresses and the gloves? They keep showing the same dresses and the gloves. Are these the same people, or is this something that they wanted them to wear, when they came there? I just have questions. Because you keep seeing these dresses. Several famous faces have appeared. Okay, we already know who the faces are. None of the young girls can be identified. I don't even know why they're showing this, because you can't see nothing. So, all ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. Like, I'm sorry, this is a nothing burger. This is a nothing burger, family. Please pay attention, because if you're going to redact all of that, what's the point? Okay, what is the point? With that all being said, Measure Man says they acted out like Beauty and the Beast. It's in the transcripts. These people are just nefarious. At the end of the day, it's so many of them involved, I'm pretty sure. But hold on. So now let me just tell you all who I think one of these people is. Okay? Let me just pull up my receipts and just remember you heard it here first. All right, hold on just a second. Hold on. I'm having technical difficulties. Okay, hold on, beloveds. I'm having technical difficulties. Let me try to download this again. That's interesting. Okay, well, here's the thing. For some reason, Google keeps crashing and won't let me download the file. Okay, so I'm just going to read it to you. I'm just going to read it to you. Let me see if I can. Oh, hold on. I can show it. Okay, I just thought of something. I don't have to download it. I can just simply show it to you another way. Hold on. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Now, this is something that I downloaded. Remember, I downloaded some of these documents. Okay. So I want you to pay attention. Now, here it is right here. This is a letter that Jeffrey Epstein wrote. It says, girls, when a young beauty walked by, he loved to grab, snatch. Whenever we ended up snatching, grab in the mess halls of the system. Okay, hold on. Let me read that again. Girls, when a young beauty walked by, he loved to grab, snatch. Whenever we ended up snatching, grabbing, we ended up snatching, grab in the mess hall of the system. Life is unfair. Okay, yours, J. Epstein. So basically, he said that they grab snatched in the mess hall of the system. Okay, is that because they got caught? That's likely what he's saying. Now he says, Dear LN, as you know by now, I have taken the short route home. Good luck. Okay, we shared one thing, our love and caring for young ladies out of the hope they'd reach their full potential. Okay, our president also shares our love of young nubile. Okay, y'all see that? Okay, so with that all being said, let's talk about it. And by the way, nubile, for those of you who've never heard that word or whatever, it just means a young woman who's sexually attractive. Okay, so clearly freaks. Okay, clearly freaks. Now, here's the thing. He was talking about in that letter, he was talking about a man by the name of Larry Nassar. As you can see, this is a picture of him on my thumbnail. Now, who is this man? Well, I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get into exactly who he is. That's right. Robert said Trump did say he liked snatching, grabbing. Yeah, he did. He said grab him by the ussy. That's what he said. Okay, that's exactly what he said. Now let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, so who is Larry Nassar? Okay, a timeline of his decades-long career, sexual assault convictions, and prison sentences. 1978, Nassar begins working with gymnasts as a student athletic trainer at North Farmington High School in suburban Detroit. He earns a varsity high school letter in women's artistic gymnastics in 1981 thanks to his work with the team. Okay, now in 1985, Nassar graduates from University of Michigan with a degree in kinesiology, kinesiology. Now, during his time at Michigan, he works with the football team and the track and field team. Y'all know who this is because this all came out on him just a few years ago. Nassar joins the USA Gymnastics national team medical staff as an athletic trainer. 1988, Nassar begins working with John and Kathleen Geddert, who later opened Geddert's Twistars, USA Gymnastics Club in Demondale, Michigan. Now, 1985 to 89, Nassar works as a graduate assistant athletic trainer at Wayne State University. While enrolled in a master's degree program, he dropped out when accepted to medical school at Michigan State University. Nassar receives osteopathic medical degree with Michigan State University. Okay, let's just get to the bottom. Let's just go through all of this and get to some of his nefarious crimes. Now, 2004, this is Rachel Den Hollander, okay? 2004, the alleged victim in Nassar's Ingham County charges tells her parents about the S abuse, but they do not report it to the police, according to court documents or court records. Nassar receives or attempts to receive images of child porn, according to a federal indictment unsealed in 2016. Now, this happened in 2004, but it wasn't unsealed until 2016. I find that interesting. Nassar attends Olympic Games in Beijing, China with gymnastics teams since 2008. Okay, let's scroll down to more of his crimes. Okay, August the 4th of 2016, the Indianapolis Star publishes a lengthy investigation into USA Gymnastics and its handling of sexual abuse complaints over the decades. And August 29th of 2016, former gymnast Rachel Den Hollander files a criminal complaint against Nassar with MSU police. She alleges that in 2000, at age 15, she was abused by Nassar during treatments for lower back pain. I think that's the first time I heard of him was in 2016. Okay, so that all being said, November of 2016, he was charged in Ingham County with 3 counts of first-degree criminal sexual assault conduct with a person under 13, facing up to life in prison if convicted. He pleads not guilty and is freed on $1 million bond. At a press conference announcing the charges, officials say they have received about 50 complaints from victims alleging sexual abuse from Nassar. Okay, that's him right there. Looking forlorn. Okay, looking forlorn in December of 2016. Now, he was indicted December the 16th of 2016 on federal child porn charges. Officials claim Nassar had received or attempted to receive images of child porn in 2004 and possessed child porn between 2003 and 2016. Okay, December 21st of 2016, he was denied bond on the federal charges. FBI agent testifies in court that investigators found at least 37,000 images and videos of child porn on hard drives seized during a search of this man's home. 37,000 images. What kind of freak do you have to be to have that much of this stuff on your darn computer? Okay, he was obsessed. Okay, he had to be looking at this crap just on a daily basis. Just sick. January 10th of 2017, 18 victims file a federal lawsuit against Nassar. Okay, MSU USA Gymnastics and John Geddert's Twistars Gymnastics Club alleging sexual assault, battery, molestation, and harassment between 1996 and 2016. The lawsuit alleges that twice in 1999 and 2000, alleged victims raised concerns to MSU coaches or trainers and that the university conducted no investigations. Now, don't y'all find this crazy? They didn't investigate this? After all of these complaints, 18 victims filed a lawsuit. Okay, and the lawsuit alleges that twice alleged victims raised concern. So this is more than one, multiple victims, and they didn't do anything. Now that makes me suspicious of them. Were more of these people in gymnastics and the Olympics and stuff, were more of these people involved in it? What's really going on here? And in 2004, according to the lawsuit, allegations were made to the Meridian Township Police Department. Isn't this a darn shame? January 24th of 2017, Michigan's Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs suspends Nassar's medical licenses. The department says it received 3 complaints against Nassar on September the 12th, September the 15th, and December the 22nd, all after he became a figure in the USA gymnastics scandal. Okay, police in Texas confirmed they're conducting an sexual assault investigation related to him. This was in January of 2017. Gary Jewell, an attorney for Bella and Martha Caroli, said Texas Rangers showed up at their famed Caroli Ranch as part of the investigation. Now, February the 7th of 2017, federal officials filed an additional charge against Nassar, alleging that he destroyed computer files that had contained images of child porn. Okay, MSU gymnastics coach Kathy Klages is suspended by the university after a woman claims in court records that Klages in the late 1990s had discouraged her from filing an sexual complaint against Nassar. That was on February 13th of 2017. And then on Valentine's Day of 2017, Kathy Klages announces her retirement before the completion of her 27th year as head women's gymnastics coach. A second gymnast alleges in court documents that Klages discouraged her from reporting Nassar's. Why were these people protecting this man? Why were these people protecting this man? I think that all of these people probably had something to do with it. I'm sorry. I think that all of these people had something to do with it. Okay, at some point. Why is this lady covering for him and telling people not to report him? Was she his Ghislaine Maxwell? I have several questions because you all know these traffickers use women sometimes as the bait. Okay. So anyway, they go on to say a district court judge ruled at the end of a preliminary hearing that there was enough evidence for Nassar to stand trial in Ingham County Circuit Court on the 3 sexual assault charges that aren't related to his role as a doctor. February 22nd of 2017, police secured warrants for 22 new sexual assault charges against Nassar. More than half are directly related to his work as a doctor at MSU's sports medicine practice, and the rest are tied to his work with Twistars Gymnastics Club. This is all crazy. Okay. Interesting how, these things happen. People expose these things and we don't hear about it for decades later. Like, that's crazy. Okay. So anyway, an MSU Title IX investigator completed an internal investigation prompted by a complaint made in September of 2016 that Nassar sexually assaulted a 15-year-old girl during medical appointments in 2000. The report concluded that based on the preponderance of the evidence standard, Nassar violated university policy by sexually assaulting the girl. Okay, April of 2017, a state disciplinary board revoked Nassar's medical license for at least 3 years and required him to pay $100,000 before reapplying. This is according to Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs. He should never be able to get a license. What are they talking about? 3 years. Okay, and then June 23rd of 2017, Ingham County District Court Judge Donald Allen Jr. ruled there is enough evidence for Nassar to stand trial on 12 counts of first-degree criminal sexual conduct. The charges relate to 6 women and girls who testified during the 3-day preliminary hearing that Nassar abused or sexually assaulted them during medical appointments. So basically, I don't even think I need to keep going. Bottom line is, this man is a whole pervert in a PDF file. Okay? I mean, the proof's right here. So y'all think Jeffrey Epstein writing him that letter? Okay, y'all don't think that means that he was absolutely engaged in the nefariousness? Of course he was. Okay, of course he was. There's no doubt in my mind about it. Okay, so Metro Man said, I tracked him to the boys assaulted in Ohio abuse scandal, then tracked him to Lex Wexner's business partner, and you will see it's all of them. They took Nassar off the Wexner Wikipedia. Interesting. For those of you who don't remember Lex Wexner, that's the guy who owned the Limited and Bath and Body Works, if I'm not mistaken, but also he was Jeffrey Epstein's boyfriend, in my opinion, okay? He's the one that Jeffrey Epstein supposedly stole money from. I think it was about $40 million, if y'all remember me reporting on this a couple of years ago. Okay, so anyway, Measure Man, thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so this is just all very crazy. Okay, so that man is, in my opinion, this man's definitely a client. Okay, this man's definitely a client. All right. Reggie said he's already been attacked in prison. And no surprise there either. Okay, no surprise there. Now, with that all being said, here's the thing. You know, let's talk about Donald Trump's Epstein problem. Because when we look back at the whirlwind that is Donald Trump's presidency, we can see the very, we can basically pinpoint the moment that things started to spin out of control. And when was that? It is the moment that people started asking about those Epstein files that he ran his whole campaign based on. Okay? And it seems like right about now, they're losing control of the narrative because he was trying to get everybody to focus on the Democrats and Bill Clinton. All right, now he's coming back talking about, oh, I don't want Bill Clinton's pictures being shown. Now, why don't you want his pictures being shown, Trump? We know you don't care about Bill Clinton. You know what it is? Bill Clinton called this bluff. Bill Clinton said, you know what? Go ahead, throw all of it out there. Release all of the files. Release every single thing. By Bill Clinton saying release every single thing, one could assume, now I'm not saying that this is the case, but I'm just saying, by the fact that Bill Clinton said throw everything out there, release all of it, just put everything out, that could lead some people to speculate that Bill Clinton didn't do a darn thing. Because if he did something, would he be saying release everything? That's what some people are going to start wondering. So now Trump loses control of the narrative. And now he's talking about, oh, I don't want Bill Clinton's his pictures out there. Because he called your bluff, Trump. Please sit down somewhere. Okay? Please sit down somewhere. Now, with that all being said, another thing is, not only are they losing control of the narrative, but now they're being threatened. Okay, they're talking about forcing them to put this stuff out there. They're talking about impeaching Bondi, which, if you ask me, like I said, they should be impeaching Trump. Okay? And so with that all being said, the whole thing is a very sordid and twisted story. All right. The fact that Jeffrey Epstein engaged in horrific acts of trafficking involving underage girls and possibly underage boys. Because in some of those pictures, there were young boys. Okay. And we happen to know, or we should know, that PDF files, they don't usually care if it's a female child or a male. Okay. That's what that is. Okay. So anyway, Trump is clearly pressed. And the fact that his name is all over this new batch of documents. Oh, and this is what I forgot to tell you. Also, they're now saying that Trump was in the Epstein, on the Epstein flight list more times than previously reported. Did you all know that? Did you all know that? Yeah, they said he was in there more than reported. Hold on. And one time with a 20-year-old. Hold on, let me pull this up. Okay, here we go. And so here is what they say. They say the Justice Department early Tuesday released thousands of new documents from Epstein, okay, including many that mention Donald Trump, your president. Now, the newly released documents include more than 11,000 files, totaling nearly 30,000 pages. The files feature more photos, court records, FBI and DOJ documents, emails, news clippings, and videos. The latest batch can be accessed at the Justice Department's website, of course. And like I told you all, I downloaded some of that stuff. Now, one notable file includes a 2020 email from a prosecutor in New York, apparently to a colleague, saying that flight logs revealed that Mr. Trump flew on Epstein's private jet many more times than was previously known. Okay, most other mentions of Trump in the new files appear to come from news articles emailed to and from DOJ employees. Now, here's something to think about. In that letter that Jeffrey Epstein wrote to Larry Nassar, he told him good luck, if you remember. Okay, he told him good luck. Why did he tell him good luck? Because he knew that he's likely going to jail, going to prison, okay? And then he mentioned our president also shares our love for young nubile. And so who was he talking about? Pretty sure it was Trump. Okay? So anyway, the department said in an ex post that some of the documents released contain untrue and sensationalized facts and information. Yeah, we don't buy that. Anyway. And so he's been on the Trump a whole lot, not on the Trump. He's been on Epstein's plane a whole lot more than we knew, and was on there at some point with a 20-year-old girl. And we don't know who else, okay? So what do y'all think about all of this? Let's go to the DOJ's backlash and how they said that they basically don't. This is a report from MS Now.
"15 days away from the midterms. And tonight we are expecting another batch of Epstein documents to be made public anytime now, as the Justice Department faces mounting backlash after their handling of this situation. Yesterday, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche defended the decision to pull some images from the initial release, including one of President Donald John Trump, right off the site, saying that it was due to concerns from the victims, and adding that the suggestion that the move had anything to do with Trump himself was, in Blanche's words, laughable. But lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are worried that the White House is slow-walking things and hiding critical information.
They've not shown any deference or respect for the victims at all, for the survivors of this nightmare. And it's all about covering up things that, for whatever reason, Donald Trump doesn't want to go public, either about himself, other members of his family, friends, Jeffrey Epstein.
The administration has struggled for months and months with something they initially ginned up and then sort of tried to tamp down. So any evidence or any kind of indication that there's not a full reveal on this will just plague them for months and months more. So my suggestion would be give up all the information, release it.
House members Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, sponsors of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, are considering holding Attorney General Pam Bondi in inherent contempt for this delayed production. And Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is taking steps to sue the administration over this whole entire rollout. But we need to take a step back and remember why it is important that all of these materials are made public. It's not about lawmakers on the Hill. It is about the women that were harmed and deserve answers. I want to share what just one survivor told MS Now earlier today.
This was meant to be a deadline where we could search and go in and find what we were looking for. And instead, we just haven't had it. And it feels intentionally careless. It feels like another way that the system has failed us. We just are trying to get to the truth. And it's all we've been saying from the very beginning, which is why it's so disheartening when we are constantly being talked about in this political way that makes us feel like we are pawns. There are so many issues here that we just need to be seen as human.
With that, let's get smarter with the help of our leadoff panel this evening. Susan Glasser joins us, staff writer for The New Yorker, Peter Baker, chief White House correspondent for The New York Times, and Daniela Diaz, congressional reporter for Notice. Susan, can we just start with what we heard from that Epstein survivor, Danielle Bensky? I don't know how else to see this, but the Justice Department, at the very least, fumbling their basic obligation and opportunity to simply do right by these women.
Yeah, I mean, look, Steph, it's a failure that has, many authors and has been taking place over years and years and years, right? And so now this idea that there was going to be one transformative kind of accountability moment, unfortunately, I have to say that it's not particularly surprising that the Trump Justice Department did not fully comply with this congressional law, that these survivors do not feel that they're being given full and transparent accounting, because they aren't being given full and transparent accounting. But unfortunately, this has become inextricably entwined with politics. It's not going to be detached now. And, it's a crisis for Donald Trump. I compared it earlier to a kind of a chronic illness at this point of his presidency. It's going to keep popping back up because they're never able to fully disclose and to fully give us a real accurate sense of why is it that Donald Trump has worked so hard to keep these documents from the public. I don't have a better answer for that now, frankly, than I did when this erupted as a political controversy this summer when Elon Musk first told us Donald Trump's name was in the files.
Okay, well, then let's turn to Donald Trump himself. And I want to share just a bit of what he had to say when he was asked about the files.
What this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has. Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Why in the world would it be finished, Peter? The files were due on Friday. We didn't get them all.
It was definitely not going to be finished. I have to say this was 100% predictable.
Why would he suggest that he thought we were finished talking about this? Does that even make any sense? Okay, what is he talking about? That makes absolutely not a bit of sense, okay? Why would he think that we're done talking about it? Fool. We just sat up here and they wanted him to pass the Epstein Transparency Act, and people have been going, in about them just not being forthcoming. So why would he think the conversation's done? He sounds so stupid, but let's continue because Trump's a whole idiot.
Even if they had released every single document they had in the files and they had not redacted a single word, there would be people who would not be satisfied and would be suspicious that they were not, in fact, getting everything, because, in fact, this was a conspiracy that the Trump allies and Trump himself have fomented over the last 6 years since Jeffrey Epstein's death. They have fomented the idea that there was something sinister there. And if they don't find it, if it's not produced through these records releases, then people are going to assume that there's some sort of conspiracy hiding it. And so they have asked for this. They set this up for themselves in a way. The fact that they didn't then release all the documents and then did release some of them only in redacted form, of course, was going to stoke these suspicions. Nobody thinks that the Department of Justice is an independent actor here. The president has made very clear that he doesn't want the Department of Justice to be an independent actor in this term. He's made very clear that it's, to him, an instrument of political power to be used to go after his enemies and protect himself. And so naturally, therefore, there's very little credibility among a lot of people who have suspicions about this Justice Department. Who is running this thing? Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General. Who is Todd Blanche? The president's defense attorney from his last trials. I mean, of course, this is never going to satisfy people who are suspicious. And so he shouldn't have suspected this is going to be over, because of course it wasn't going to be over.
All right, let's talk about Blanche, because his response.
Yeah, let's talk about Blanche. I'm gonna let y'all hear that in a second, but here's the thing. Okay, first off, Soul Sister says MAGA taking over the media to report all good on Trump. CBS bought and paid for All Blacks Out, but Queen already reported this. Exactly, and that's what I was about to say, beloved. Okay, that's exactly what I was about to say. See, this is the reason that I'm showing you all these different news reports, because we need to know who is selling out. sitting here painting narratives to help defend and protect Trump. We already know what CBS is doing. The next one we're going to go to is CNN. We want to hear what they're saying. Okay, Reggie, thank you, beloved, for your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, Dynamic Quality wants to know, why did they mention a 20-year-old was on the plane? Well, that's a good question, because that's not underage. But they were very specific in saying that it was a 20-year-old. Okay, I think that they said a 20-year-old just, for us to paint the picture that Trump wasn't around anyone underage. That's just what I'm thinking. Okay, that's just what I'm thinking. That they're painting this picture that Trump wasn't around anybody underaged. So he was on there multiple times, many more than expected or previously reported, and then one time on there with a 20-year-old. Okay, yeah, why did they have to mention that? All right. I find it interesting as well. Okay, so Dynamic Quality, thank you for your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, with that all being said, Deronda said it's a smokescreen. Absolutely. Edward says other people from CBS is probably guilty too, because Walter Cronkite is in there. Okay, he was from CBS. Yeah, they likely are. Okay, I mean, they likely are. This is all getting real crazy, but let's continue.
So lawmakers' threats of potential legal action, contempt, impeachment. He said, bring it on. And Daniela, I'm pretty sure he wasn't talking about my favorite movie of the late 90s. Is this guy just goading oversight in the new year?
Stephanie, it's exactly what we expected from someone like Todd Blanche, as Peter just said, who has defended Donald Trump, has been his attorney in the past. I mean, this is clearly how they were going to go about this when it came to the Epstein files from the very beginning. We saw what Donald Trump, you just played a clip, said today, really saying this is taking away attention from our actual accomplishments. Now, I've talked to Republicans on Capitol Hill. They're not there right now, of course. It's really close to the holiday. But they have told me for the last couple of months, actually not releasing these files and not being able to shed light on what this issue is taking away from the Republican accomplishments that they've made in Capitol Hill. They passed that bill over the summer, the One Big Beautiful Bill. But really what took over the summer, this conversation about releasing the Epstein files.
That is all absolutely true. So why would Trump think that it's a done conversation, that we're finished with it? That is what took over the conversation. Okay, and quite frankly, his mishandling of this entire matter has created more suspicion than ever, as well as unrest amongst his own base even. Okay, and they're just sitting there trying to, basically declare that there's no truth to the conspiracy theories and there's no incriminating client lists. Okay, and remember, until recently, they tried to paint this as just, the controversy as just being something that was confined to social media and the far right. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. Now, the first indication that this was breaking through a broader audience, well, that all started when Trump deflected a question about Epstein aimed at Pam Bondi. If you all remember, he said the same thing that he said yesterday in the clip that I just played. He said, and I quote, "Are you still talking about Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. Are people still talking about this guy, this creep? This is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time?" Remember when he said that? Remember when he said that, and now he's saying it again, okay? So please pay attention. And also, Dan Bongino said that he's quitting, but months ago, reports had emerged that the number 2 official at the FBI was going to quit. And who was that? Well, it was Dan Bongino. Okay, and why was that man ready to quit? Why was he even thinking about that? Well, likely because he already knew that Trump's full of BS and lying, and he didn't want to get his hands dirty. Okay, that's my assessment.
I do agree with what Peter said, that it's going to take a long time to be able to squash these questions surrounding these files. But in doing this drip, which was not what was expected when they passed that legislation to compel the DOJ to release these files, what the Department of Justice is doing is adding to more questions about what is in these files. And also, is there a selective amount of files that they released on Friday, on Saturday, to paint for example, former President Bill Clinton in a negative light and remove Donald Trump from a photo. So there's so many questions, and they're not helping their case right now by not answering them.
Peter, you want to paint Bill Clinton in a negative light? Go for it. I haven't heard any Democrat saying they shouldn't. What the American people are demanding is complete transparency. And the thing about Todd Blanche, he didn't really explain. He was asked directly and he fumbled. He could not explain why Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to a minimum security prison, despite her status as a convicted sex offender. So this guy's going on TV clearly.
He actually did explain it. He lied and said, now I'm just saying that he's lying in my opinion, I think he is, but he did explain it. He said that she was receiving death threats. That was his excuse. And like I said, did she all of a sudden start magically receiving death threats when he showed up to interview her and find out what the hell she was going to say about Trump or not? Okay, please make it all make sense. Okay, Reggie said if he can't explain his actions, he's lying. Exactly. Okay, we didn't hear anything about her receiving no darn death threats. And here's the thing. If somebody wanted to do something to Ghislaine Maxwell, she's been in prison long enough for them to have done it. Okay? All lies and further BS.
Hurting his own credibility. But beyond him, why aren't we hearing from Pam Bondi? She is the boss.
It's so easy to become a podcaster with Riverside. You just need a concept and a way to record it. Here's how it works. First, go to riverside.fm and open an account, and then you'll be able to capture high-quality video and audio from practice.
Well, we heard this week through the article written by Chris Whipple and
Sorry, beloveds, I was distracted. I was looking for a receipt. Okay, so let's continue.
Vanity Fair that Susie Wiles, the White House Chief of Staff, thinks that Pam Bondi, quote, completely whiffed, unquote, when it comes to the Epstein files, that she didn't understand the power that this story has for the MAGA base, and that therefore she didn't handle it right. She first told them that
Can I
she had
interrupt
given
for
them,
1 second?
yeah.
That's the thing that killed me this weekend, though, Peter. We all read Chris Whipple's reporting last Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Where Susie Weil, in my opinion, levels Pam Bondi, saying you whiffed on Epstein. So fast forward 5 days, she has a chance, or 3 days, to make these documents public on Friday. She has a chance to go on the shows on Sunday, and she's MIA.
Yeah, she is MIA. She obviously wants nothing to do with it. Todd Blanche has been put out there as the public face of this. And again, as we've just talked about, Todd Blanche is known, of course, as President Trump's former defense attorney. Of course, Pam Bondi also defended him in one of the impeachment trials. So both of them are, in fact, former Trump defense attorneys in one form or another. But you're right, Pam Bondi is absent. She does not want to have her face attached to it. It's possible because she has lost credibility with the MAGA base about this. And maybe they think that Todd Blanche might have more credibility. But the truth is, as long as they have documents they haven't released, as long as they are redacting some things that they have released, they're going to stoke suspicions. And that's going to be the inevitable outcome here. So it's not surprising that we are where we are. And you're right, they're going to try to shift attention to President Clinton. President Clinton's office today put out a statement saying, fine, release everything. No question, there's a lot of people who look bad in these Epstein documents, plenty of people, Democrats and Republicans alike. But so far what we've seen is not told us something we didn't know. The question is, what don't we know that's in the documents they haven't released?
Okay, so they talked a lot about Pam Bondi not wanting to have her face attached to it. It's a little too late for that, ma'am. You have already been telling lies. Because remember, she said the files were on her desk for review. Then all of a sudden, there was no client list. It's all conspiracy theories. Remember those lies? But here's the thing. Remember how I told you guys that Pam Bondi and Lindsay Halligan could lose their licenses and they're going to mess around and lose their licenses to practice law fooling with Trump and all of his BS? That absolutely could happen. And this is why Pam Bondi, in my opinion, doesn't want to be anywhere near this debacle at this point, because they're already threatening to impeach her. Now, even though impeachment alone doesn't automatically mean she's going to lose her license, her law license. But here's the thing. The underlying actions that led to the impeachment could absolutely trigger a review process by the Florida bar, okay, where she obtained her license. Now, right? Because they have the authority to revoke her license. And so at the end of the day, she could lose her license from this, okay? And so I think that's why she's probably hiding out. But let's go to this next clip.
a big new batch of documents in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. And these include new details about Epstein's one-time friendship with President Trump. Look, there is a lot to go through. We said it's like more than 10,000 pages. So we are digging through this, but this is what is seen so far. In a 2020 email, an assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York wrote that Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet, quote, more times than previously has been reported, at least 8 times between 1993 and 96. And on a flight in 1993, according to the email, there was just 3 passengers, Trump, Epstein, and what's described as a 20-year-old woman. Being mentioned in a trove of investigatory documents, Trump, Epstein.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little distracted because I'm still looking up stuff even as I'm sitting here. Okay, so I'm going to read this paper that's on the screen. Okay, it says, for your situational awareness, wanted to let you know that the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported, or what we were aware. Okay, including during the period that we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case. In particular, he is listed as a passenger on at least 8 flights between 1993 and 96. Okay, she probably already read this, but let's get to the part where it says the then 20-year-old blank, and they don't say the person's name. On 2 other flights, 2 of the passengers respectively were women who would be possible witnesses in a Maxwell case. We've just finished reviewing the full records, more than 100 pages, a very small script, and didn't want any of this to be a surprise down the road. Assistant U.S. Attorney, Southern District of New York, and the name's redacted as well as the date. Well, the date's at the top, but the name's redacted. Now, with that all being said, here's the thing. Why would they mention that the person was 20 years old? I'll tell you why. First of all, like I said, they're trying to protect Trump. Okay, so by specifying an age, specifically the age of 20, you know what happens? They avoid implying that the woman was a child victim or that it was a minor, basically. Okay, because if they didn't say the age, oh, Trump was on the plane many more times and he was on there with a woman, or on there with a female or whatever, one could speculate, okay, was this somebody underage? And we just wouldn't know. So by them giving us an age, that's telling us that this person was of age, and basically they're saying that there was nothing illegal going on. Okay, they're basically saying there was nothing illegal going on. And so I find that interesting. Now, with that all being said, it also adds context without making an accusation. Okay? They mention the age. They don't mention any alleged misconduct. And they emphasize, as usual, because they keep saying this, there's no claim of wrongdoing. Okay, so this basically allows us and the news outlets and everybody reporting on it or talking about it to present the fact while stopping short of implying anything illegal. All right? This is all very interesting. So, like I said, these people are just trying to cover for Trump at the end of the day.
And what's described as a 20-year-old woman. Being mentioned in a trove of investigatory documents does not demonstrate criminal wrongdoing, a reminder. And Trump has not been accused of being involved in Epstein's crimes. On Monday, the president did seem dismayed that the release of
Songwriter Sonny just brought up an interesting point, saying a 20-year-old who was 14 when they met. You know, that is a very good point, beloved. That is a very good point. Okay, and Just Anticipate says, and how do we know she was 20? So we're just supposed to take their word? Exactly. Exactly. We can't believe anything they say. They have been lying and playing in our faces for months. One lie after another. Okay. Byron B says, I agree, Queen. Getting that narrative out first is important to them. Exactly. Because they know, you know, that this is going to come out about the flight logs and him being on there all these different times. So let's get ahead of it. We'll just say that he was on there with a 20-year-old. Because y'all don't even need to say the age. You're not going to tell us who the person was because the victims aren't going to be called out. And also, we don't even know if the person was a victim because they didn't say that either. They just said the person was on the flight. The person could have been a whole victim. The person could have absolutely been a minor for all we know. We can't take them at their word. Okay. They've lost all credibility at this point.
Of any and all of these files, though, could harm the reputations of individuals he said, quote, innocently met Epstein. Now, remember, he is the man they also signed into law last month, the measure requiring the Justice Department to do just this, release the files.
Hey guys, did you know some drivers are ditching their car insurance and they're doing this?
A lot of people are very angry that pictures are being released of other people that really had nothing to do with Epstein, but they're in a picture with him because he was at a party, and you ruin a reputation of somebody.
Here's a question for Trump. How in the hell does he know that these pictures being released? How does he know that these people didn't do anything? How could he possibly know that? Somebody make it all make sense. How could he possibly know that people in pictures with Epstein didn't do anything nefarious? The only person he could speak for is himself. And of course, I don't believe he'd speak the truth, but I'm just saying that's the only person he could know about certainly, for certain, unless he was there. And he likely was there when some people were doing things. That's just my opinion. But for him to sit there and say that there are people in the pictures who didn't do anything, how does he know who did what? Or who didn't do what? How does he know any of that? Trump, please sit down somewhere with your lying self.
As we speak, CNN has a team working through the documents just released. We are going to bring you the findings as they come in. CNN's Caitlin Polans is live in Washington this morning. A lot to work through, and we're just getting started. Caitlin, what do you have so far?
We're just getting started, but the headline here is quite clear. Donald Trump is all over these documents. In that first trove that the Justice Department released on Friday, there were just a few very scant mentions of Trump, including in a picture collected with a bunch of other pictures. In this one, there is already one very illuminating email that was sent during the first presidency of Donald Trump while prosecutors in the Southern District of New York were working on the case against Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. This is after Epstein's death. And one of those prosecutors writes, I'm going to read from this letter because it is what was new to the prosecutors at the time and what is new to us now, receiving these documents now in the public sphere from the Justice Department. The prosecutor, unnamed, an assistant U.S. attorney of the Southern District.
Miss Mississippi says during slavery, they had access to as many children as they wanted. Now they have found a new way to traffic children and continue to get away with it. Absolutely. Absolutely. But see, that's what I keep telling you all, that slavery and trafficking are the same thing. Are they not? Slavery and trafficking are exactly the same thing. So slavery never ended, like it's literally still here. And we're not even just talking about in prisons. Okay, it's literally still here. They're still doing the same damn thing that they've always done. I want y'all to pay attention. Okay? They're just not doing it in plain sight anymore, but behind closed doors.
Of New York wrote on January 8th of 2020, the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported or that we were aware. That's the Justice Department in 2020, including during the period we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case. On one flight in 1993, Donald Trump and Epstein are the only two passengers listed. On another, the only three passengers are Epstein, Trump, and a then 20-year-old. On two other flights, two of the passengers respectively were women who would be possible witnesses in a Maxwell case. And then the assistant U.S. attorney concludes this email by telling his or her supervisors or superiors in the Justice Department didn't want any of this to be a surprise down the road. That's a direct quote. Now, Donald Trump, he has not commented yet on this particular revelation in the Epstein files coming out overnight and this morning that we are now surfacing for you here. But Donald Trump has downplayed his relationship with Epstein in the past. And of course, this is something that is documenting his connection to Epstein traveling on that private plane in the 90s. So many years ago, Kate. But Trump even yesterday was saying that everyone was friendly with Epstein. He was all over Palm Beach. And Ghislaine Maxwell, this past year, has said in an interview with the Justice Department talking about Trump that she never saw him do anything that wasn't gentlemanly, that was any sort of impropriety at all. That said, this is a document that shows the possibility of Donald Trump having an intersection with Ghislaine Maxwell and the criminal case against her in which she was convicted.
I have a question. My question is, in that letter, that email that they showed that has been released, why did they redact the name of the U.S. attorney? I'm just wondering why they redacted the name of the U.S. attorney, because it was Jeffrey Bierman, okay? Because didn't it say the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York? That would have been Jeffrey Bierman, who was the federal prosecutor, the former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. Yeah, he was the federal prosecutor who announced and led the S-trafficking indictment against Jeffrey Epstein in July of 2019. So why did they redact his name? Like, that's just all weird. Like, what are they doing? Okay, at this point, Robert said, hold on. Robert says Epstein looks like John Travolta now. Oh no, I beg to differ, honey. I absolutely beg to differ. Okay, John Travolta, absolutely not. Absolutely not, beloved. Now, with that all being said, yeah, I just find that interesting that they redacted his name. Because why? Because are they just redacting stuff that's even not necessary, so that it just looks like, oh, we got to redact this, we got to redact that? I mean, or are they trying to make it so it's not looking like they're just redacting specific things? I'm not getting that. That makes no sense. Okay, but let's continue.
Convicted for sex trafficking of minors. Clearly, this did not come out in the trial, but it is a pretty revelatory document. And Kate, it's just one page right now. This is the one page that I've walked you through. There are many, many more documents that we are piecing through this morning to see what else may be news here. But Donald Trump is in the latest batch of the Epstein files.
Yeah, much more to come, as Caitlin's laying out very clearly. Caitlin, thank you so much for jumping on. I really appreciate it. Sarah.
All right, joining me now is Sarah Kristoff, a former U.S. prosecutor for the Southern District of New York. Thank you for being here. Look, the DOJ has said they are releasing these documents more slowly because they are concerned about exposing victims. But in some of the emails that were released Monday afternoon, by Monday evening, some of those documents were taken down. We now know a victim's name who wished to remain anonymous was not redacted. We also know President Trump's name, as you heard there from Caitlin, appears in several places in the latest dump. This is the second time they've released documents only to remove them again. From what you have seen so far, is this just sloppy work from the DOJ, or do you see this as being more calculated?
So it is a hard job to redact these documents appropriately. The law set forth sort of categories of material that could be redacted. The DOJ has to go through these very carefully, make calls about, really page by page about what needs to be redacted or not. But they have all of the resources in the world to do that. I mean, they have thousands of lawyers, top lawyers, who could be working on these documents, following a protocol and making decisions. So, I mean, they certainly should be moving quicker than they are, and we shouldn't really be seeing mistakes, particularly mistakes regarding victims' names. But this is a human process and a very laborious, time-intensive process.
And as we go through these, of course, other organizations going through these, the Washington Post saying that the latest tranche of Epstein documents, there was a subpoena sent to Mar-a-Lago in 2021 for records related to the government's case against Ghislaine Maxwell. What do you glean from that?
Yeah, I mean, some of the juiciest stuff really is going to be in internal DOJ emails, right? That's where the prosecutors are talking about the case. That's where they're sort of hashing out the evidence that they're seeing. So we're going to see some good stuff in there, as we already talked about this morning. The other place I think you're going to see really interesting material is in FBI reports, 302 reports, to the extent those are released in unredacted form or partially redacted form, because that's really going to set out the nature of the investigation and the steps that were taken in connection with the investigation.
You just mentioned this. There were a large number of documents showing in this latest tranche the objections filed by Epstein's victims in 2008 after the U.S. attorney in Miami agreed his office would not prosecute Epstein on federal charges in exchange for Epstein to plead guilty to less serious state charges of soliciting prostitution from a minor. What will these documents expose? What will people see in these documents as they're looking at, what happened there in Miami that a lot of victims are very, very upset with?
Yeah, I mean, the course of events here in terms of sort of the Florida prosecution or lack of prosecution and then the subsequent prosecution in the SDNY was sort of very complicated. And we're going to see more details uncovering that, more details about why decisions were made, why charges were brought or not brought. And that, I think, is going to be very illuminating about whether there was sort of political pressure or external forces on decisions that were made internally in these prosecutorial bodies.
There is a lot to go through, and as you said, this is an unprecedented amount of information having to come out of the DOJ, but the law says it was supposed to be out altogether, and now it's coming out in more of a trickle. Sarah Krisoff, thank you so much. I'm sure we will be back when we see more of these documents. Appreciate it.
Jess Michaels is
Okay, so oh. Hold on, beloveds. I shouldn't have stopped that. Hold on. They got another report. Hold on just a second.
about the way the release of files has been handled. She explained to CNN that no one from the Justice Department reached out to survivors for their input.
To me, what we're seeing is just an incredibly sloppy and inconsistent and thoughtless process that has been done to try to redact names or leaving things haphazardly unredacted. I felt very strongly that this was a clear-cut, black and white moment. Friday, December 19th at 11:59, if all of the files had not been released publicly, this DOJ had broken the law that took an act of Congress to pass and that the president signed. And to me, that is a point we need to keep talking about. We want to see financial records. We want to see all of the long list of indictments for Jeffrey Epstein back in that sweetheart deal, the Alex Acosta deal. We want to see all of that paperwork because it proves the negligence that we've been talking about all along.
Yes, it's me again.
Okay. So with that all being said, listen, they're doing everything they can to cover this all up, honey, but it's coming out in the wash. Okay, some of it's coming out in the wash anyway. Now, I want to see if they're actually going to impeach Pam Bondi. Question is, why isn't it Trump? But I'm going to go to this news report from Fox News about Nicki Minaj going full on MAGA. And I want you all to pay attention to how they're gloating. Like they really think this is the keys to the kingdom for Black people to start voting for them. Are they insane? She doesn't represent all of us, but let's get into it.
Turning Point USA's America Fest saved their biggest speaker for last this weekend. And while J.D. Vance, the vice president, was the headliner, surprise guest Nicki Minaj may have stolen the show. She sat down with Erica Kirk to give both Vance and President Trump her support.
I have the utmost respect and admiration for our president. He has, I don't know if he even knows this, but he's given so many people hope that there's a chance to beat the bad guys and to win and to do it with your head held high And
no, she didn't say with your head held high. And remember, she said, and with your integrity intact. Anyone with sense, an ounce of common sense, the brain the size of a mustard seed knows that Trump has no darn integrity. Okay? Holding his head high. Mess me with it. She has gone full. This is MAGA Barbie at this point. Okay? We need to just cancel her. I'm sorry. We need to. Yeah.
Your integrity intact.
The panel joins me now. Alex Swoyer, the Washington Times editor-at-large, and Michael LaRosa, former chief spokesperson to First Lady Jill Biden and special assistant to President Biden. Guys, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Alex, I'll start with you. One of the things that Nicki Minaj had to say in her conversation with Erica Kirk was, it's okay to change your mind. She was once very critical of President Trump. What does that say about our politics today?
Let me just throw this out there. Here's the thing. I want you all to pay attention because Nicki Minaj, the fact that she's, sitting her caping for Trump and all of that, calling him handsome and praising him, talking about his integrity and all that stuff, she sounds real crazy. She's beyond a raccoon, okay, and a plantation mammy to boot. Because the thing of it is, let's not forget how during the attacks on Venezuela, Trump has likely killed, okay, or had killed some Trinidadian fishermen who were not doing anything besides trying to earn a living. Okay, you all do remember that part of the reports, right? Okay, so, and I have a friend who's currently in Trinidad right now who has told me that basically, people are very concerned about getting out there doing their work. Okay, about going out there fishing to make their money because of these airstrikes. But she wants to sit there and cape for Trump. Please make that make sense. Okay, let's continue.
Yes, you hit on exactly what I was going to bring up. If Nicki Minaj, who is in the past, I think 2016, she's been critical of President Trump and his immigration policies, even using that as a reference in one of her songs, I think it was Black Barbies, talking about being an island girl and Donald Trump wanting her to go home, to now being on stage at Turning Point USA, giving the president and the vice president her endorsement and praising them. I think one of the interesting points in her transformation has maybe been religion. She talked about the importance of being at that event and the fact that there was it brings young people close to God. And she's recently praised the president, I think it was last month, about speaking out about the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. So if someone like her can make
She's so stupid, okay? Nicki Minaj, that is. Praising Trump for speaking out against the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. First of all, the Nigerians weren't persecuting Christians. That's for number one. Okay, and even if they had been, we all know Trump doesn't care about Christians. He's not a Christian himself. Now, he'll sit there and say he is because that's what sounds good. But if you ask me, I happen to think that Trump is a whole atheist. Okay, that's what I happen to think. I don't even think he believes in the Most High. Okay, and that's just what I think. But let's continue.
This transformation, I think that speaks volumes about the type of voters that also can across the country. We saw it in 2024 with the popular vote, and I think we'll see it again. It could spell trouble for Democrats with the midterms. Historically, the president in power, his party loses ground, but it seems like someone like Nicki Minaj could bring different voting blocks to the Republican Party and expand their tent.
Michael, conservatives have taken this idea that, it's a big tent and you can be free to speak your mind and change your mind. And then they look at Democrats and they say, well, this is a party, Democrats, that you're shouted down if you don't conform. You think that's true?
Yeah, I do. More and more recently, I do believe that's true. And I think Nicki Minaj, put her finger on something real that Democrats should pay attention to, and that political tribalism is pushing people away and not bringing them into the tent. And that's exactly what we should not be doing. We need to have, and she talked about it throughout her conversation with Erica Kirk about ideological and opinion diversity and viewpoints. She didn't say she's a Republican now, but she also talked about her respect and admiration for the president, as you saw, and her advocacy and her, even though she may disagree with the Trump administration on other things, she is working with them on the situation in Nigeria. And that's admirable. We need to have less reflexively partisan points of view in the party as a whole. So I tend to agree with her.
Alex, when it comes to star power, Kamala Harris, the vice president last year, had about as much star power as you could get. That didn't get her over to the election. So does it really matter when stars endorse politicians?
I'm not sure star power is enough, but I think it's interesting that we talk about certain voting blocks that the Republicans really need to go after to expand their tent. One is Black voters. That's one area that they need. Female voters, mothers, and Nicki Minaj speaks to all those blocks. I think the last point you all also mentioned was the First Amendment. She is an artist. She uses her voice to express her viewpoint. And the fact that Charlie Kirk was assassinated for doing the same, expressing his viewpoints too, could also be what drew her to that event.
Michael, Nicki Minaj called President Trump and Vice President Vance role models for young men. Young men swung towards the Republicans last year. Do you think that's sustainable? How do Democrats get it back?
I don't know if I would completely agree with her on that, and I don't know if that's necessarily something that Democrats would. I think they would take issue with a lot of that. But no, you're right. The Democratic Party has a lot to do in order to win back our coalition. We have to stop alienating certain members of society, through DEI policies or through unfair hiring practices and things like that. That's a start. And we have to be more open and tolerant of other points of views within the party.
Michael LaRosa, Alex Sawyer, our panel. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Sean.
Okay, so you all heard that. They sounded so ecstatic, like they were so excited. Okay? Locked Vegan said these people don't have a clue. Exactly. They sure don't. Okay, if they think we're listening to Nicki Minaj and we're going to be going behind her to the booth, honey, they can miss us with it. All right. So Robert said she's washed. Okay. The bottom line is, I think Nicki, like I told you all yesterday, is trying to get a pardon for her nefarious husband. And also, I think that she does, like that lady whose video I played, Madam President's her name. I think I agree with her when she said that because of the stuff going on with Rock Nation and Nicki beefing with Beyonce and Jay-Z, that she wants to be connected to Trump because that gives her a level of power. You know what I'm saying? That would make it like if she's down with them, nothing, if anything happens to her, that it's going to be investigated or whatever, or looked into. Okay. And so I find it all very interesting. So anyway, with that all being said, Just Anticipate said, Nicki, ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis. Exactly. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. I did not realize it was over 2 hours. All right, so I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. If there's any more breaking news, I'll be back. Okay, other than that, don't wait on it because I have a lot to do today. Okay, so anyway, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, and never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, peace.
Hey, yo, Nick, hit him with that flavor. Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin? God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got